like I want to go for a walk again without pain like I used to.
Exercise Pros patented walking simulator propulsion technology moves your feet back and forth along its concave track, creating constant movement and flex at both the knee and ankle joints. It's like having a physical therapist right in your own home.
It's helped with the swelling of the pain. Pain feeling is gone.
Call right now and order your very own Exercise Pro, the clinically proven automatic leg mover that soothes pain and naturally promotes healthy circulation. Call now.
I'm Terry Austin, and you're watching Law and Crime. Welcome to Law and Crime at this noon hour. I'm Jeanette Levy, and thanks for being with us on this Tuesday afternoon. We are covering the Ynw Melly double murder trial, and the defense and the state have both rested their cases. And there's one witness, though, that the defense did call in this case. So we want to show you a little bit of his testimony, but first, just a quick recap. Because both sides have rested, court will be dark on Wednesday, and closing arguments in this case are scheduled for Thursday. Melly, whose legal name is Jamel Demons, faces 2 counts of first-degree murder and the possibility of the death penalty for the shooting deaths of his 2 friends. Demons is co-defendants. Cortland Henry claims Chris Thomas Jr. and Anthony Williams were killed in a drive-by shooting, but the state says the evidence shows the fatal shots were fired from the back seat, and they say Melly did it. Before we get into those viewer questions, and please keep them coming to us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Threads, and Instagram, also TikTok, we want to jump back into court to show you that one and only defense witness, Adrian Davis's testimony, he was the only one, so let's see how that finished up.
I don't know. You don't know. Oh. But conveniently, the phone's missing now. Objection. Yes. So, with regard to your conversation, you texted back and forth with the defendant prior to this event occurring, right?
Yes.
And he has sent you a picture of his driver's license from that phone number.
Yes.
So you knew Mr. Demons, the defendant Melly, to use that cell phone 772-713-9807.
I don't know what the number is.
You have it saved in your phone, right?
Yeah, but I can't just remember the phone number like that.
And your testimony is that he's looking all around.
Yeah.
So in terms of the phone, you see the end of it?
I don't remember.
No. And in terms of the phone traveling up to the video shoot up in Koga, you don't have a phone traffic there. And you didn't shoot Mr. Williams or Mr. Thomas, right?
No.
But you know who we're talking about, right?
Chris.
Yes. And in terms of the messages and things for Mr. Demons, you're aware that his phone was broken at that time, right?
I don't know.
You don't. In terms of Mr. Demons, you know he was dating Mariah Demons.
Yeah.
And you know that Mr. Demons would FaceTime her on a regular judge.
There's no evidence of that.
I don't know.
So you know that Mr. Demons would,
Excuse me. He's the correct man.
Mr. Demons, my apologies, Mr. Demons would FaceTime
Yes. Thank you. Yes. Sir, thank you very much. Please sit down.
So there you have it, Adrian Davis, one of the men who was at the recording studio that night. He left with his group of friends in the red Mitsubishi. Melly and his friends left in the Jeep Compass, but at some point in time, Adrian Davis says that Melly ended up getting into that red Mitsubishi. And he went through his recall and recounting of that entire evening. Then the defense rested. The state did not call any rebuttal witnesses. So there you have it. Before we get to your questions, I want to introduce our great panel we have with us to do that. And it's Law and Crime's Terry Austin. She has been covering the case for us down at the Broward County Courthouse. Brian Buckmeyer is a host and attorney here at Law and Crime. And also Imran Ansari is a host here at Law and Crime and also an attorney. So thanks guys for being with us today. Let's start with Terry. Terry, bring us up to speed on what exactly happened in court.
Well, it's interesting, Anjanette. I think everyone was expecting to see Brendan Collins, who was that FBI agent, as a witness because the defense was talking about that most of the week. And instead, we saw, as our viewers just saw, Adrian Davis. He was one of the individuals who was in that red Mitsubishi. He testified that all 8 of them, the 4 in Melly's car and the 4 in the Mitsubishi, were all friends. They all grew up together. They all lived in that house, and they were all collaborating on music at the YNW collaboration. And so there was no motive, essentially, is what the defense was trying to establish there, for anyone to have any sort of shooting. We also heard him say that at the time of the drive going from the studio to the house, he basically said the cars pulled over and that Melly got into the red Mitsubishi. So when the shooting occurred, Melly was not in that car. He also established that they all went back to Melly's house. Melly was there. Melly went to his room downstairs. Everyone else went in other places. Then he said they got the phone calls that the shooting had occurred. He said they all cried. He said that Melly was crying as well. So they established that that did happen. One other thing, Anjanette, I'll say that I think Adrian Davis brought out on his direct testimony was when they did that video recording, you may recall, on the day of the shooting, and it is clearly after the shooting, ultimately, that is what has been established. That was because he had to do the video. He explained that if he didn't do that video, he would not have gotten paid. So he explained why we saw that video shortly after the shooting, where everyone was, walking around, and you saw Melly. He was preparing to do that video. So I think it was a crucial witness for the defense, and I think he came across as credible. And the prosecution did try to say, look, I took statements from you. You didn't say all of these details. You said you weren't sure where Melly went when we went in the house, but they did what they could, I think, on the cross of that witness to establish that his memory wasn't exactly clear. But at the end of the day, this is a live witness. It is not circumstantial. It is direct. It is someone who was there that night, and I think it had a powerful impact on that jury. They were at the edge of their seats listening to this witness.
Yeah, very interesting. It's always nice to hear from a civilian rather than an expert or law enforcement. We heard from so many experts and members of law enforcement in this case. There really weren't many, regular people, what they call lay people. So thank you so much, Terry, for that.
I see that though, man.
Now. We have a lot of really good ones coming
Demons,
in as usual.
Dude's name is
so keep
Demons.
them coming on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. And we'll get to as many of them as
guys, it's power in
This
names.
first one I'll send over to you, Brian Buckmeyer. AMJ Gaming 101 exclamation point asks, do you think the jury will buy into the drunk/high story or believe it to be an excuse for his selective?
Guys, I'm gonna cut the sound back on, but I just wanted to say something real quick, man. Like, understanding this world and everything, you gotta understand, man. Demons, I don't care in what way that you use the term demons. It is what it is, man. Like, it's power in words, it's power in names. Like, for instance, like some people's names, if you name a kid something, like they'll get strength and stuff throughout the universe. Like the atmosphere will embrace them a certain kind of way just because of their name. Like they'll get power. That's why, like in biblical times, man, they gave certain names, strong names and stuff like that, because it would make the kid strong. It would represent that, you know. And for this kid, I don't know how he ended up with the last name Demons, but he looked like got a lot of demons on him to me. I'm just saying it would take somebody that was evil and was being used by, think about it, you've been used by Satan. If you get it in your mind that you finna kill somebody, period. Okay. But this dude that went out his way to kill his friends. Okay. Went over to kill his own friends. He up in there laughing and smiling in the courtroom. You trying to tell me this dude ain't got a demon in him? Like, for real, man, you gotta look at this stuff for what it is. And these beings that we see on this news broadcast stuff, man, y'all already know they not, you know what I'm saying? So they over here acting, they putting on a big show, like they don't know what's going on. They know good and well this man is being utilized by the devil. He's acting on spirits and stuff that's controlling him, telling him to do this kind of stuff. So like we always talk about the sacrifices and the stuff these folks got to do to be in this industry, man. Like if you don't do it, think about Kanye and his mom. Think about who was it? Jay-Z and his nephew, and Beyonce. Who did Beyonce? It was a cousin or something. I mean, the list goes on, man. Everybody's got this person that got sacrificed. I showed you the videos. My last couple of videos, I talked a lot about the guys that were speaking out, like, hey, the Illuminati do exist. Like Ice Cube, like, yo, like all these people, like Ice Cube saying, like, yeah, Jamie been cloned and stuff. Like people don't want to hear that stuff, man. But it's real, like this world that we living in and the stuff they doing. I just want to say that real quick, man. Y'all go ahead and continue to comment in the comment section or whatnot. Right.
It's important to surround yourself with the right people.
I've got my work. But yeah, man, like these kids, man, they don't know what they doing. They doing this stuff for fortune and fame, man. They get they get a bag and they think they on top of the world and they can't be touched. In this boy's case, man, he's gonna go down. It's gonna go down. You know, I don't know how that's gonna work out for him, but at the end of the day, man, he had demons basically telling him what to do. Last name is Demons. Melvin Demons. So make what you want of it, right? So yeah, it's being lifted, people will see. Yeah, a lot of things being seen now. Just like I just put that video up with the girl on the plane. She like, that mother over there ain't human. Hey, let me off this plane. That's why I put it. Let me off this thing. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, but y'all gotta understand too, man. A lot of times these artists and stuff, man. Now I can't speak for all of them, but you know the ones that end up doing the odd thing, all that stuff, man. A lot of times them things been taken over. They hosting, you know, they pretty much been taken over. That's why they start engaging in some of them ritualistic sacrifices and the drinking of the blood. They do all that stuff because that's what those beings do. You see what I'm saying? Like the I don't know for sure, but the thing that was on the plane, like, what do they do in their spare time? Like, what are they doing? Are they eating regular food? Are they, you know, going on to regular events and stuff like that? Obviously, they gotta fly and go where they gotta go, but you don't know what them things do in their spare time. You're not in their home. You don't know how many bags of kids' fingers and toes and stuff they got stored up in the freezer. Like, all that stuff, man. Like, you're not gonna know about the stuff that goes on behind closed doors. So Look at the WHO trying to promote something. They promoting anything or saying anything about something, man, you know it's probably not what it is. Or they trying to distract you from something. Yeah, let me unmute this. I think it's coming back. If y'all haven't already, y'all make sure you go on my new channel. You ain't on there, make sure you get on the new channel. I'm gonna be doing some more stuff like this, man, to kind of keep you guys in the loop with different things, man. Be a little more interactive with you guys, man. I would like to start bringing folks on, man. You know, having some of you guys speak. You know, I know some of y'all camera shy and whatnot. I would like to get some of you guys on. You know, be able to have some conversations, some productive conversations and whatnot. Let's see. Where's everybody watching from? Y'all on Rumble? Y'all on the new channel? If you're not on my new YouTube channel, man, make sure y'all get over there. I'm sharing it now for those that's on Rumble. You're on Rumble, I just put it in the chat. Boom. Make sure y'all get over to the new channel.
Welcome back. I'm Ynw Melly, and you are watching Law and Crime. We are taking your questions during this lunch hour. It's not really lunch hour in the Ynw Melly double murder trial anymore because both sides have rested. The defense rested this morning after calling one witness, a civilian, Adrian Davis, who was at the recording studio that night, riding in that red Mitsubishi that left the recording studio around the same time as the Jeep Compass involved in this case did. So we are taking your questions. Closing arguments are scheduled for Thursday. Court is start tomorrow on Wednesday. So Terry, I'm going to get this next question to you. It's from TikTok. @AngelsFace82 asks, why did the defense wrap up so quickly?
Well, I think they wanted to end with a bang, so to speak, and they had a civilian witness. They had a witness who was in one of those two cars, and it was Adrian Davis, and he was able to testify direct evidence about what occurred that night, and he did give some very helpful information as far as the defense is concerned. He stated that both of the cars left the studio, that they were driving home to Melly's house, that they pulled over and Melly got into that red Mitsubishi. So he was not there during the shooting. They went home after that. They got a phone call, and the phone call was about the shooting, and they all were very upset. So I think what the defense strategy-wise was trying to do here is to end on a high note. No reason to call a crime scene reconstructionist, I'm assuming, because that could go back and forth. It's an expert. Who's going to believe your expert over the prosecution's expert? So why even bring that back into the case? They were also considering bringing Brendan Collins, who's an FBI agent. He was going to talk about those cell phone records. I'm assuming the defense was probably thinking the jury has already heard enough about that. So they ended with a witness who I think was pivotal as far as this case was concerned.
All right, Brian, our next question, also from TikTok, and I think it must be from AngelsFace82 because it says, thank you, one last question. Did Melly make a mistake by not testifying?
Oh, I don't think so, because I think at the end of the day, what the defense is doing very well is this isn't necessarily this story versus this story type of case. I think that what they're going for is the prosecution can't prove their case. I think in this situation it works because you have the type of crime where you're alleging that your client wasn't there. It's different than a self-defense argument, for example, where you're not saying your client isn't there. In fact, they're part of it, but they have to justify their actions. I think the defense is being very wise, as Tara articulated, in just removing him from the equation altogether. So I think that summation, they can argue, if he was to testify what he told you, that he got in the Jeep at some point, and then he got out, and then when he found out the news, he was with Adrian Davis, and he wept, and he was cried about it. You already know that. So what could his testimony advance other than to have this prosecution cross-examine him about the death of his two friends that he's being wrongfully accused of. I think that's the angle of the defense.
Wrongfully accused, man, that dude guilty as hell.
Like so in that sense, I think a pretty wise move not to testify.
Imran, our next question comes from @T_Kellis from Twitter. So say Melly is found not guilty. Could he testify at Bortland's trial, take responsibility for the crime, and not face repercussions for his testimony / admission of guilt?
Right now, under the theory of double jeopardy, that could be a plausible sort of scenario there, but it would be somewhat outlandish, and I would not expect Ynw Melly, even if that was the case, to go in and help Bortland like that with that sort of testimony. Could he be a witness at that trial? Yes, that's a possibility. But again, if I was his attorney, I would be looking to distance Ynw Melly from this crime after an acquittal, if that happens, in every way possible. There could be a subpoena, and he may be compelled to testify at that trial. He may be a witness for even the prosecution if they're going to somehow bring him in as a witness. But again, if I was Ynw Melly's defense attorney and he got acquitted in this case, I would be looking to distance himself in every way possible from any other proceedings. Melly's defense attorney.
I like this question for you, Terry. Latasha Gaffney, who I've seen that name quite a bit from our YouTube chat. So thanks so much, Latasha, for all your good questions. Could it be that both cars were on the scene when Juvie and Sack were killed, and that's how Melly got into the other car and left his phone behind, rushing to get off the scene? So there are a lot of ways we could answer that question, but Terry, what do you have to say about that?
Well, I think it's an excellent question, and certainly the prosecution can argue that. I mean, they were arguing that it was Melly who actually did the shots from the back seat, so I don't think at this point they're going to change any theories that they may have, but it's up for that jury to decide. And so the question you raised, Latasha, is reasonable doubt. I mean, it's reasonable doubt because we don't know exactly what occurred. We know what this witness said today, Adrian Davis. He said Melly got out of the car. He said Melly went into the Redmond speech. But if something else happened, that's up for that prosecution to establish definitively one way or the other. So I think there's some reasonable doubt here. I think at the end of the day, the jury's going to try to determine what was credible, what was not. I think Adrian Davis did have some moments where he wasn't 100% sure based on what he was saying earlier during an interview with the prosecution and what he said on the stand today. But I think the major points he was very clear on, and I don't think the prosecution was able to sway him one way or the other that that's exactly what happened that night. Melly got out of the car. They went back to Melly's home. He wasn't there. He was 100% sure, according to the defense, that he was not there. Melly was not there during the shooting. He was at that house.
Brian, I guess I have a question I'm going to throw over to you based on that. How are they going to explain then, and I understand the defense has no burden here, they don't have to really explain anything, but the cell phones, you know, if you look at the diagram that was presented through the FBI agent's testimony, they travel together and then at one point they diverge that night. You know, the one cell phone, you know, or set of cell phones goes to the house, the other one goes to that 27 in Pembroke Road crime scene.
And they set the whole thing up. It don't take a rocket scientist to figure it out.
At time, since we don't know where the shooting occurred, is that when that second cell phone goes towards Pembroke, that's where the shooting occurs when they split. Because no one's been able to give us an actual timeline for when the shooting happened or the actual location. They weren't able to go back and say, hey, we know it was shot from the inside out. Here is a bullet that landed in a home, or here is, well, it'll be shell casing because they probably land inside the car, but we don't know where the shooting is. So yes, you have great information that the two cell phones traveled together and they separated at one point. I think the argument can be, if I'm correct in this, the cell phone that travels to the house is Ynw Melly. And as he's getting to the house, he's pulling up, gets in with Adrian Davis. They start getting phone calls. Both stories can be true. I don't think they need to be that combative. It just needs to be that the timeline isn't perfect because the prosecution hasn't given it to you.
But the Melly phone does go to US 27 in Pembroke Road.
So then the argument would be that the other phone going away towards the house is where the shooting occurred. It's simply a matter of the shooting happened when the two cell phones separated. And if they can't prove to you that the shooting happened when the two cell phones were together, then how are they proving that Melly was there during the shooting?
All right, our next question, and I will stop with my questions, comes from Threads. Imran, Curated Adventures Travel from Threads asks, why did they go to Fredo's house instead of the hospital if they were so close?
That's a good question, but it's a question that I can't necessarily answer because I wasn't with them. That is one question that may arise in the jury's mind, and we'll have to see if during summation that's going to be explained to them based on the evidence that is before them. But that is a good question when you're thinking about why they would proceed to one location rather than the hospital. But again, that's going to be one piece of evidence among a slew of evidence before this jury that they're going to have to decide. And whether they have proven the case beyond a reasonable doubt in the prosecution, and these answers are then either answered by the prosecution in summation while they sum up that evidence, and then also the defense has also their theory to present to the jury. They will have to decide, and that's one question I think that may also arise in those jurors' minds.
So Terry, we have a two-part question coming up for you. This is from @JustChillin' from Twitter. If Melly should be found not guilty, what will that mean for the trial against Cortland? So we'll throw that part at you. And then the second part is, why could it be exonerating for Melly that he was looking for his phone when they were at the house?
Okay, so as far as the first part is concerned, if Melly is found not guilty here, and then Bortland obviously is going to be tried. He's already scheduled for trial. I think that is going to not help as far as Bortland's case is concerned, because that jury is going to be pointing that finger only to Bortland. And if Melly is already acquitted, then the jury is not going to be looking at any other possible defendants in either one of those cars, particularly though as it relates to Melly. So I think because the prosecution has already decided it was one or the other, obviously they brought the case against both of them. They brought the case against Melly as a death penalty case because they thought that he was the shooter, and that's why they have the death penalty against him. They said Henry because he was the driver in the car, he survived. So if Melly's acquitted, it's not going to help Bortland as far as his case is concerned. He's the last person standing, so to speak, in that car. As far as looking for the phone in the house, after they left the studio, they drove back to Melly's house and they pulled over at the side of the road. According to Adrian Davis, Melly got out of the car, got in the red Mitsubishi, went to the house. They got the phone calls from various people. It wasn't established exactly whom, but they got phone calls about the shooting. And Melly apparently wanted to make some calls out. He was looking all over for his phone. I think that's important because it shows where Melly was. He was in the house. He wasn't with his phone. He wasn't at the shooting. And he was upset like the rest of the other people in that house. It's basically saying, look, it's a person who's not with that phone, so he is not the one who actually did the shooting. So I think it does help Melly's case that he's looking for his phone at that point in time.
Brian J. Allen Day from YouTube asks, by the defense not bringing in their own forensic expert witness to give the jury a different opinion on the shooting and how it occurred, did that weaken the defense's case?
I think it depends on how the summation goes, because in my mind it goes one of two ways. Either they're going to go up there and they're going to really wrestle in the mud with this expert and say they were wrong here, they may have been right here, and whatever it may be. I don't think that's the smartest road to kind of travel, because you could argue it somewhere else. You could say, Ynw Melly never said the shooting happened from outside the car. That is a lie from Bortland. That has nothing to do with Melly, because as Terry eloquently said, he was at the house looking for his phone. He wasn't there. So whether or not the shots came from inside out or outside in and who lied about it has nothing to do with Melly. Take that up with Bortland on his trial. I think that second option is a lot cleaner, and that's probably why you don't bring an expert rather than bringing an expert and having this battle of the experts.
You know, the battle of the experts, sometimes it's a wash. I mean, sometimes people just go with their gut on this and don't really pay attention, and other times they're really effective. It just depends. Imran, I've got a great question for you coming up, but first we have to take a quick break, so stay with us and keep the questions coming on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. We'll get to as many of them as we can when we come back. We'll be right back.
Hey, does anybody want to come on and share their thoughts on the case, or if they've been keeping up with it? If you want to come on, do a live with us right now, I will open the floor. I will link you in, send you the link so we can get you on live. Anybody, any brave soul out there that would like to come on and speak, we'd love to have you. I'll give it a moment, see if anybody want to step up and ain't too camera shy. Love to have you. You'll have that. No, you'll have. So what y'all think? Y'all think that he just pretty much was doing it for his own personal gain, for as knocking those guys off so that he could reap more of the benefits from the group that they started? Or was this a Illuminati specific blood sacrifice of his friends, of his best friends since they was young? Did he do that so that he could propel himself in the music industry? What's y'all thoughts on that? I don't know how many of y'all been keeping up with the case, man. I watch a little bit of this stuff, to see what's going on with some of these kids nowadays. And also, I always pay attention to who they got involved with, them guys, so we know what to expect. You can kind of see this stuff coming like a mile away. So, in his case, yeah, it looked like if I had to say, I would say that it was a combination of things. I think he saw both. He saw an opportunity to advance himself in his music career. He might have already made a deal with the devil, playing the blood sacrifice, and figured he could kill two birds with one stone, or kill two homies with one gun. That's basically what he did, right?
And sorry, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Welcome back. I'm Ynw Levy. Thanks for being with us on the lunch hour here at Law and Crime. We are taking your questions on the Ynw Melly double murder trial, so keep them coming into us on all of our social media platforms. The state and the defense have both rested in this case. The defense calling just one witness, Adrian Davis, who was at the recording studio that night. And so court will be dark tomorrow, so both sides can prepare their closing arguments. Those arguments will be heard by the jury on Thursday morning. So, Imran, I said before the break that I had a question coming up for you, and I do, so let's get to it. Teak exclamation point from YouTube asks, what would be the real reason, in all caps, for Melly to switch cars mid-trip to the house if both cars were going to the house?
Right. Well, that question is left unanswered by the evidence in the record. I mean, there could be many theories or reasons why he would switch cars, but this jury doesn't have it in testimonial or evidentiary form. They're going to be told by the judge they have to listen and decide this case on the evidence and the evidence alone. They can't speculate. So that may be one point for the defense that may be a negative. Because they put Williams on, he testified that Melly ended up in that red Mitsubishi, but the reason why that switch occurred is left unanswered. And that may be something that the prosecution will hone in on in summation and point that out. Like, why would that happen? And it may be something the defense would have to grapple with. And remember, the jury can't speculate. They have to make their decision in this case on the evidence and the evidence alone, and that's why it may be something that may hurt the defense in the end.
Terry, curated adventures travel from Threads. So they're sending in some good questions too. If Melly was in the red Mitsubishi, why did he send Fredo Bang his location from the reported crime scene? Why didn't Mr. Glass? Okay, let's start with part one of this question. This is one of those multiple questions. One, if Melly was in the red Mitsubishi, why did he send Fredo Bang his location from the reported crime scene?
Okay, so like Imran said, this is one of those pieces of evidence that is not there for that jury to consider. We don't know exactly why. If, in fact, maybe he was sending it for Fredo to pick him up, maybe Fredo Bang couldn't pick him up, and so he decided to get in the red Mitsubishi. Maybe the gray car was going someplace else before going back to Melly's house. This is all speculation. I don't know. Those questions have not been answered into the evidence. So the jury isn't going to be allowed to speculate on that issue. So as far as the first part of that question is concerned, Anjanette, I don't know why he would send the location to Fredo Bang if in fact he was getting in another car. I just can only assume here, as the reporter looking at the trial, that he had to get in the red Mitsubishi instead.
Okay, and I'll send you the second part of the question, and Brian, then I'll get over to you in a minute. But why didn't Mr. Glass, Travion Glass, know that Melly was in the car with them if he really did get into the Mitsubishi? So we've got two lay witnesses basically telling two stories.
That's right. If you recall, Travion Glass came on earlier on the prosecution's case, and Travion Glass basically did not add a lot of substantive information. He didn't clarify, at least not to the extent that we saw Adrian Davis clarifying who was in which car. Davis clarified clearly who was in each of those cars. I think Travion Glass was a little more vague about most of that information. I said this before. One of the things he did say was that there was a change of clothes by Melly, but other than that, he just didn't recall. I think we heard testimony that they were all drinking and smoking, so perhaps he just could not remember. So that's probably part of the reason for the inconsistencies as far as who's in what car.
Travion Glass, much like Felicia Holmes, did not want to be there. It was very obvious. Brian, Ava Grace 467-639-69 from Twitter asks, how does the testimony of this witness, and I'm assuming they mean Adrian Davis, line up with the forensic evidence from a few weeks ago?
So I'll try to narrow it down. I don't think it lines up in the sense of it gives a nice storyline that goes side by side. I think this storyline actually diverges a little, because now the question becomes, if Ynw Melly is not in the vehicle at the time of the shooting and there's only 3 occupants in that car, and you have one driver, one front passenger, and then one person in the back, who's shooting from that seat behind the driver? Are we now saying that one of the victims, someone who died, was back there, and maybe this was a shooting between the two victims shooting at each other? Maybe that would explain it. But taking out one person out of this car where the prosecution is saying there's 4 does kind of go against, at least to some degree, what the evidence shows. Because I guess hypothetically, if I'm the person behind the driver's seat and I'm shooting across and they're shooting at me, maybe some bullets go here and straight across from me as well. Maybe we're moving and we're not stationary objects shooting at each other. I guess that could make sense, but I think Terry and Imran have already said it, and I'll say it even in a different way. If we get to a point, and let's pretend we're jurors, if we get to a point where we have questions and we can't piece it together to make sense, what I tell jurors, I make the analogy of, imagine going to a restaurant and you order a meal and they mess up your meal. Sure, can you go back in the kitchen and fix that meal to get the steak the way you want it cooked, or the vegetables steamed the way you want it to? Yeah, you probably have the ability to. But no one in their right mind goes into a kitchen of a restaurant they just ordered food, fix the meal, and then eat it there and then pay the bill. No, you leave. And the jurors should be doing the same thing. If they've got a menu of food that doesn't make sense, don't put it together to find guilt. The law says that's not guilty. Imran, I keep taking your head. Use the analogy. It works.
Absolutely agree.
I just want Brian, Imran, I'll let you stop talking in a minute, but I want Brian to stop talking about food. I haven't had lunch yet, so go ahead, Imran.
No, Brian makes a great point there. If the juror is left with these questions, and they're questions that go to the heart of the elements of the crime that Ynw Melly is charged with, then that's a problem, right? That's reasonable doubt right there, because the prosecution hasn't met their burden by giving that jury the answers to the questions, right? The defense, they don't have a burden. They want, as a defense attorney, you want to put on a case if you need to, right, in justification, like Brian mentioned before, but you really want to poke holes into the prosecution's case. And based on what we're hearing from these questions, it sounds like if our viewers have these questions about the evidence, and assuming they've been watching diligently here at Law and Crime this trial, then that means that jury may have those questions. And if they have those questions, that's going to bode very well for the defense. But it's the defense's job to hit that home in summation and let the jury know that if they have those questions, they're unanswered, that equates to reasonable doubt. They haven't met the burden in the prosecution's camp, and they should come back with an acquittal.
Acquittal.
Terry, our next question comes from @RikerJS. How do you think the defense handled some of the evidence that could go against Melly? This is from a TikTok.
Well, if you remember the beginning of this trial, they had experts on guns, they had experts on DNA, they had experts on the cell phone towers, and they had an expert on gang. I think on cross-examination, the defense dealt with those issues. As far as the gun is concerned, there was no gun residue on Melly. As far as the cell phones are concerned, they're saying, look, you can tell us where the phones are, but you can't tell us exactly where Melly is. The gangs, they dealt with that issue by trying to say, look, they wanted him in the gang. It's not Melly who was trying to get into the gang. He basically ignored most of their messages. And as far as the DNA, there's no DNA except on the outside of that car. And I think what the defense was trying to say for the DNA is, look, okay, he opened the door. You saw him open the door, get into that car at this studio, but that doesn't put him inside the car with the gun shooting from the back seat. So I think the best evidence that the prosecution had were in those areas, as I just mentioned, and I think the defense dealt with it by trying to dispute exactly what the prosecution was going to say.
All righty, we are going to take a quick break. Keep the questions coming in on all of our social media platforms. We'll be right back.
I'm Jesse Weber, and you're watching Law and Crime.
I'll never forget the day I nearly died.
An acquittal. Hey, you know what though, guys? I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say if he get acquitted, y'all already know that was more than likely an Illuminati sacrifice. Illuminati sacrifice, and they got their pieces in place. They judges, they lawyers, they prosecutors, all that, they jury, and they will make it so he'll get off. because he did the sacrifice. You see what I'm saying? Like, when we see crimes and stuff happen, man, it's only a crime to us. Okay, to them, that is a ritual. That is like glorified. That is like the ultimate, favor. Like you doing something to show some type of loyalty to the elite, Illuminati, the devil. You're showing some type of loyalty, and they reward that. So I've been kind of back and forth about this whole case the whole time, because I'm like, man, I don't know if he did it for his own like personal reasons, or was it specifically a blood sacrifice. If it's a blood sacrifice, if he get off, it was a blood sacrifice. Because I said, man, when it first happened, I said that sounds like a blood sacrifice. I believe he did it as an Illuminati sacrifice. He blowing up and everything, because these artists don't be about nothing. They just blow up because they do something like that. They're not good artists. Like, we don't have good music artists no more. I don't know if you guys know that, but we don't have good music artists, and these guys do this stuff, and that's how they get all the riches and fame. And then they play their music on the radio, because you did your due. Now we play your music on the radio, pump you up, and like I said, he'll get off with some little smack on the wrist. Oh, we couldn't get him. And then what ended up happening, his buddy may go down for it. The other guy that was in the car. And I kind of see this kind of unfolding like that now. So I'm starting to be a little concerned. But it do look like he very well may end up getting off, man. He may get off. Do not be surprised. Seriously? Wow. So Jennifer, you saying you don't get no notifications? You can look at your bell notifications right now, and both of them are clicked, and they still don't let you get notified. Now I know that for my previous channel, but I just set up the new channel. Are you sure that your bell notifications is on for the new channel? Because this is why I'm navigating, man, and trying to circumvent the system that they got. But that would not be good if they already blocking notifications. So, did anybody get notifications? What's up, Misconstrued? Did anybody get the notifications for the videos?
Odors. And Litter Robot provides real-time updates. Litter Robot by Whisker.
I'm Mike Sachs, and this is Law and Crime.
What's up, Indigo Pink?
Welcome back. I'm Ynw Melly. Thanks for being with us here on the lunch hour on Ynw Melly's double murder trial. It's really not the lunch hour, I guess. I guess it kind of is in that trial, but both sides have rested. The defense calling one witness today in defense of Ynw Melly. Court will be dark tomorrow. There will be arguments, I think, about jury instructions in a little bit here. And then closings on Thursday. So we'll see what happens there and what the jury decides in this part of the trial, whether they come back with a guilty and not guilty, or possibly a hung jury. We're taking your questions, so let's get right back to it. Brian, based off of what you've seen, what do you think the verdict will be, and does Melly have a chance? This is from @GoatBabaJ from Twitter.
All right, Goat Baba J. I think it heavily depends on the prosecution. It really depends on them.
That dude doing too much smiling and stuff, man, for somebody that just lost his voice.
The defense gets to have their closing, and the prosecution goes last. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think in Florida it's prosecution, defense, and prosecution, but prosecution regardless always gets the last word. And the question becomes, is the defense capable of addressing all of the issues the prosecution can bring up when they get the final word? If they can, and the prosecution can't, for example, answer all of the questions that all of our viewers have been asking. Why get out of the car at this point? Why switch cars? Why this? Why that? If they can't address that, and the defense has the ability to say, as Imran said, those whys equal reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt equals not guilty. I can't see an avenue in which the prosecution can weave their way out to a guilty verdict. However, there are those people on the jury who'll be like, guys, this is simple. We can piece it together. We can do it ourselves. And so what I'm leaning towards is probably, if I'm throwing out numbers, a 9-3 to acquit, anywhere from there, or a full acquittal. I think there might be a few holdout, maybe it'll take some time, but I think eventually they get this past the finish line if those things happen.
All right, our next question is coming from Des from YouTube. Imran, do you think Portland will try to take a plea deal if Melly is found guilty or not guilty to not go in front of a jury?
I mean, that would be a reevaluation of his situation by obviously himself and his attorneys. And certainly the verdict in this case is going to spell out the game plan in that case, right? So he may very well look at this case, if there is in fact a conviction, and start reevaluating his decision to go to trial. And if there is an offer by the prosecution, his attorneys would sit down with him, and I would imagine they would seriously consider taking a plea if this trial goes south for Melly. Now, again, he stands in a different situation, in different shoes than Ynw Melly, but of course these are facts and a trial stemming from the same incident. So this is almost a litmus test, if you will, for the Portland trial and for his attorneys, and I'm sure they're watching intently, listening to all the evidence coming in this trial. And the verdict in this case, I am sure, will be something that they will consider when they consider their next move. A, go to trial still, or B, if the prosecution is offering something, will they consider it?
You know, Imran, wasn't the time to make a deal before Melly's trial started?
That's a conversation which probably the prosecution had with Portland. If any offer, any plea deal was on the table and now it's off the table, then that's something that's going to be considered, and he may be going to trial regardless. But also with either a conviction or acquittal in hand, the prosecution themselves may reevaluate the case and decide whether they're going to offer something if they could get a conviction in hand with Portland now that they have a conviction with Melly, or if there's an acquittal with Melly, reevaluate the case now that they've had that trial run with Melly and say, let's offer Portland.
All right, let's get to our next question. At Jamie, well, at _Jamie_W_. That's a lot of underscores in one handle. From Twitter asks Terry, if the phone in question
got his hands on that boy.
Was left in the car by Melly, did it ping the same towers as Cortland Henry's phone leading all the way up to the hospital? That would prove if the witness for the defense is credible or not. But Portland, Terry, didn't have a phone that night.
Well, that's right. The 2 phones or 3 phones in that car, at least according to the testimony, were phones that were Anthony Williams and Christopher Thomas, and then there was a 3rd sort of burner phone. So there was no phone by Cortland Henry in the car, at least at that point. And as far as Melly's phone, it wasn't in the car at the hospital because, you know, it was elsewhere. He was looking for it. So it's unclear to me whether or not, to answer the question, they can tie all of those phones together. I think the cell phone data has been something that has been a bit confusing for the jury, and following all of the telephone numbers and figuring out who owns, you know, the 9807 phone and who owns the other phones and where those phones were this night. It's a bit unclear. The only thing I think that the jury is going to understand is that the victims were in the car, their phones were in the car, and there was a 3rd phone found in the backseat that wasn't the 9807 phone. It was another burner type phone that was in that car.
Brian, we only have about a minute and a half left in the show, but this comes from Taylor from YouTube. If Melly lost his phone, how was he dropping pins and FaceTiming and texting later that night? Really briefly.
That's a great question. I don't know. Maybe he found it at some point, and maybe Adrian couldn't tell us. But again, that comes down to one of those questions that if the prosecution can't answer, a wise and very articulate defense attorney may say, more questions, more doubt, more not guilty.
This boy, no, he probably, you know what though, guys? He probably know he about to get off. Now I'm thinking about it, he probably know he about to get off. Why else would he be smiling and stuff? I think it was a sacrifice, man. And if it was, he gonna get off.
Good question. Let's see what summations.
It don't matter what they say up there. Them judges, man.
I think that's going to be.
Them judges is locked in. They probably they done took the oath.
I think that I actually
believe that.
Well thought out verdict. I don't think it's going to be necessarily a swift one because you got a lot of evidence from the prosecution to sift through.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of evidence. I mean, there was a lot of expert testimony. We had the cell phone stuff. We had a couple of lay witnesses, a lot of police officers coming through to testify. So there's a lot to discuss, and they've been going at it now for over a month. And then we had a couple of delays as well. So there's a lot to recall in this case. It'll be interesting to see how both sides sum it up. So we are done here for this hour. We really appreciate everyone tuning in, sending your questions as usual. As I mentioned, court will be dark on Wednesday. Closing arguments will be on Thursday. We'll have them covered here. Terry, thanks so much for being with us. Brian, you as well. Imran and
I know
Sari
she
will
probably
take it
ain't
from
human
here
too.
after we get back to the break. So stay tuned right here to Law and Crime. Throughout the afternoon, we'll bring you the very latest on the YNW.
All these fake ass people online. Generic.
I'm Michelle Yu, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Yeah, I think he's smiling and stuff like that, man. I think he very well is about to get off of this. I think some kind of way they gonna have an acquittal or something, man, is gonna get him off. Cause when they do that stuff, man, it don't even matter the nature of the crime or the magnitude. They got the right people in the right places. Just like the people that went up to the January 6th and caused all that ruckus. And some of them didn't even do nothing, but they tracked them people down, and then they got the right judges in place to make sure they prosecute them, make sure they go to jail, go to prison. That's just how they move. Yep. So yeah, that's likely what's gonna happen in that case. That boy about to get off. They already create some doubt. Ain't no doubt. I could tell pretty clear what that man did. And I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with the case. What I may do, I may pull it up real quick so people can see. For those that don't know much about the case, I'm gonna play something real quick so y'all can see. So let's do that. Play something real quick. Let me see here. Let me see real quick, man. This might be. All right, we'll play this so people know kind of what's going on. Let's do this. Boom. So y'all can catch wind. So some of y'all don't know. We're gonna play it real quick. Boom. All right.
But he's still thugging, he's still straight, but he, to an extent, he know how to control his anger and himself. Melvin, only let.
See, he telling you about the demons, y'all. Pay attention to what he's saying, man, because like this go back to like the whole Beyonce Jay-Z stuff, these alter egos and stuff like that. That's why I say the boy is got they got their hands on him. All right. So listen to what he's saying. Is gonna put things in perspective. You're talking about two personalities. You're talking about possession. Like when this thing occurred, he probably was possessed. Pay attention to the video real quick. Y'all can check him out.
Begging is speak to an extent. He know how to control. He know how to control his anger and himself. Melvin, I only let him out at nighttime.
Rapper Ynw Melly talking about his two personalities years ago. Now his trial for the murder of two friends starts this month. His biggest hit about murder. If convicted, a new law could make it easier for Melly to get the death penalty. This is the story of the Ynw Melly double murder trial so far. Welcome to Law and Crime Sidebar Podcast. I'm Anjanette Levy. Jamel Demons, known to fans by his stage name Ynw Melly, is set to go on trial for murdering two of his friends. That's the accusation. He's in jail in Broward County, Florida, for more than 4 years now. Melly is just 20.
God, does that dude not look demonic? Like you're in prison, you're taking a mugshot. How much more evil can you look? How much more evil can you look? Come on, man.
4 years old. Ynw stands for Young New Wave. This case involves 4 members of Melly's Ynw crew. 2 are dead, and Melly and another member, Portland Henry, who was known as Ynw Portland, are accused of killing them. Police say Melly shot and killed 20-year-old Chris Thomas, also known as Ynw Juvie, and 21-year-old Anthony Williams, who went by Ynw Sack Chaser, in October 2018. Video shows them together earlier that night as they recorded a music video. Police have said Ynw Portland was driving the SUV and claimed they'd been shot in a drive-by. After the murders, Melly posted on Twitter, "They took my brothers from me over jealousy. I know y'all watching over me." Months later, in April of 2019, Melly was charged with killing his friends. He pleaded not guilty. With the support of the victims' families, prosecutors said they would seek the death penalty. Portland also faces murder charges. His trial date has not yet been set. Melly talked about Juvie and Sack Chaser's names being tattooed on his face before they were killed. They were in a room with him during an interview for a podcast.
So what you got tattooed on your face? Tell me about it. What? On my face? Yeah.
What on my face? Look at him.
What's that say above your eyebrow? That's up. Which side? Oh, either one. What's it?
He don't even know what's on his face. Probably got them tattoos with the other personality got.
Okay. Juvie. Just a lot of your friends who passed?
Nah, them.
Oh, okay. My bad. I wouldn't get none of my friends tattooed on my face until they died.
Melly rose to fame while serving time for a 2015 shooting incident. Police said that he fired a gun at several people outside of his high school. He was just 16 at the time.
When you were in jail, did you feel like, were you ever at a point where you felt like all hope was lost?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah. When I first got locked up, because I ain't know what they was gonna do. I ain't know. I thought, damn. I was so young. I ain't know. I was like, damn. This boy made murder on my mind. I was like, man, hell no. They could give me
Murder on My Mind was Melly's biggest hit, along with Balenciaga Blues. His career was on the rise.
So what was it like working with Kanye?
Awesome.
Awesome?
Super mega awesome cool.
But there's more to Melly than just music. He's also talked about something else that's going on within him. He claims to have 2 or more personalities.
So who am I talking to right now? Am I talking to Melly, Melvin, Mel? Like, who am I talking to?
Who am I talking to right now?
I'm mad right now.
What are you mad about?
No, I'm mad. We gonna talk about it.
What you mad about?
We said let it go, so we gonna let it go. Alright, Melly is loving, genuine, turned up, happy. And she's loving. You know what I'm saying? Michael Jackson. Melly is Michael Jackson.
The other personality he discusses is much darker. His name is Melvin.
Melvin, I only let him out at nighttime. And I need to stop doing that. Like when the night hits, he really come. And it's like, Melvin is just like, once you play with Melly to a certain extent, Melvin just don't like that. Melvin on your ass. Don't care. You on your ass, you don't play.
Like many trials, Melly's has been delayed several times because of COVID, but also because of arguments over the death penalty and evidence. Jury selection has been underway since April. At that time, Melly's mom, Jamie Kane, posted on Instagram, "Melly coming home. Today I went to court expecting more delays, but we started jury selection. I can't explain how I feel. My anxiety is everywhere, but God got us. Opening statements are expected next month." In an unrelated case, a news report from 2019 claimed law enforcement suspected Melly and Bortland might be involved in the fatal shooting of off-duty Sheriff's Deputy Gary Chambliss. His 2017 murder remains unsolved, and investigators will not confirm whether the
Full Sail University is where the next generation.
So man, if y'all paying attention, dude, man, he basically been possessed. That's what we talk about with your spirit, man. When you vibrate low like that and you distracted, you can easily be possessed by demons, by demon spirits. You can be used by Satan. Okay, and obviously he was used by Satan. They was talking to him, told him to do this stuff. I mean, dude, last name Demons. I'd have to get that name up off of me first and foremost. Like, I'm not running around with that name.
Joining me to discuss Ynw Melly's upcoming murder trial is Mina Lona. She is an on-air personality at SiriusXM The Heat and at 100.3 FM in Philly. Also, Jules Epstein is with us. He is a professor at Temple University's Beasley School of Law and a death penalty expert. Thanks to both of you for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Mina, I want to start with you. Let's talk a little bit about why there is so much interest in this case. We know that this happened back in 2018, these homicides. Melly was arrested and charged in 2019. He's been in jail ever since. He was really an up-and-coming rising star when this happened.
I think that's the interest, the fact that he garnered attention from someone like Kanye West, who was featured on a song with him. He was this rising star, and out of nowhere, this situation happened, which is really a mystery. What happened here? Who was the car? Was this part of a drive-by shooting? Was it a shooting that involved the people inside of the car? I think the fact that he does have a song that it's called Murder on My Mind, where he talks about accidentally shooting someone. I think all those things add to the interest in the story and just the I guess the riddle of what happened here.
And another thing too, I mean, he has a certain level of charisma. Am I wrong about that? Because he seems to really be a charmer when he does these interviews. And the thing about the personalities is something that really kind of piques my interest, because he talks about how he's got Melly, who's this sweet, loving guy, but then Melvin comes out after dark and all
after
that's
dark.
I think he's very much an entertainer, and we've seen it play out in his debut album, which literally explored this dual personality that he has. It's kind of like an alternative character, but I think it's also an extension of his mental state of mind, right? He's been diagnosed with bipolar syndrome, ADHD. So all of this contributes to the fact that he seems to be someone who has battled some mental behavioral issues. And he's kind of made it into the entertainment world, and he's managed to create this persona off of his battles that he's dealing with, which you will hear a lot of that in the music, the things that he's rapping about. And yeah, I think he's entertaining, and all of this really intrigues people and makes them wonder, who is this guy? What is he about? What personality is he today? And what happened on the night in question? Was this a situation where maybe he had a issue with his mental health? All of this contributes to the interest in this story. And I also think that the fact that we haven't heard about what's going on with his case and trial for 4 years, I think that the death penalty now being put on the table, I think that adds to the interest in what happened, what's going to be the defense, what is the prosecution going to say, and how is the death penalty now being on the table? How is that going to impact this trial?
Jules, I want to address that with you. We do have a young guy here. He's 24 now, but when this happened, he would have been, 18, 19 years old. So in many respects, yes, legally an adult, but also still mentally probably a little bit of a kid if you look at some of the research out there about how people mature and brain development, things like that. He's going to say he didn't do this at trial. So if we're talking strictly the guilt phase, the things that Mina brought up, the bipolar disorder, the ADHD,
bipolar disorder.
How does any of this play into?
And it goes back to the parasite aspect too, though, guys. Like a lot of this stuff, man, it goes back to the parasites and things. We ain't gonna get into all that now, but I just wanted to put that out there. I'm gonna do something on that as far as the depression. Depression is linked to the parasitic aspect. Suicide linked to parasitic. Mind control. Okay. Having things talk to you. Voices. All of that stuff has been linked to parasites. So just want to put that out there, guys, because we've been talking about that a lot lately too.
If he's saying I wasn't in the car, I was somewhere else.
Right.
It doesn't matter if he's a genius.
Still organized.
It doesn't matter if he has a learning disability. It doesn't matter if he has a diagnosis of bipolar. Mental health issues come in when a person's state of mind is in play. If someone said, I shot, but I was in fear. I shot in a momentary state of mental disarray, then mental state is relevant. If it's saying, I wasn't there, it's not relevant.
Well, we know that Melly was in the car. And really the facts of this case, when we look at it, are that they left the recording studio after a late night session, and they claim, Melly and his co-conspirator claim that this was a drive-by. But the police claim that's not the case. They claim that there's no evidence of a shooting where they claim that this drive-by happened. Their cell phones put them in a different area of town at the time, and that these shots likely came from the backseat where Melly was sitting. So all of that on its face, Jules, sounds really, really bad. But as things unfold at trial, you never know how they're going to go.
So now we're talking about forensic analysis. And forensic analysis is only as good as the people who do it.
Yeah, you got a name like Demons, man.
That they are deploying.
At AUC, we believe in our story.
But y'all know, I'm gonna put a video up, and I kind of been hesitating. I'm gonna put it up, but it was a guy. He was a part of the Illuminati at one point. He was a male witch, and he was very much heavily involved in the music industry. And he was talking about his name is John Todd. I'm gonna do a video. I'll pull a video for you guys on him. And he was talking about how with the music, like these artists are required to conjure up demons. Like they're literally put into a room and they cast spells, they conjure up evil spirits and stuff to go into the music, so that the music, it will go and you call it distraction. We call it distraction, but basically the music allows them to come in, that energy, that negative energy, they ride in on that frequency. You see what I'm saying? And they're able to inhabit people. They're able to possess people. They're able to control you. Okay, that's part of the whole mind control aspect, is having or being able to be influenced. Okay, but you have to be vibrating at a certain frequency in order for these demons to be able to possess you. That's why we go into the whole God and Jesus and having love in your heart, so that these things, these evil spirits, these evil entities can't occupy you. Okay, they can't occupy your vessel. You won't share your vessel with these beings. So these people that are open to it, that's vibrating on a low frequency, they able to be inhabited. It's kind of like the Matrix, man. Them agents flowing in and out of people. It's the same thing. Same thing.
In terms of where a bullet was fired from, that is not always that hard to discern. Okay, you can recreate angles. There may be issues of ricochets or things that can distort angles. but the police, at least from the news reports, seem pretty confident that they can prove the shots were from inside the car, indeed from the location in the car, as you put it, where he was seated. If that's true, because my recollection, and I only began familiarizing myself with this case yesterday, is that at least initially he said he wasn't in the car, that there were different disputes, and then there are video putting him in the car. So first of all, his own history of changed statements becomes admissible evidence. And that doesn't mean he did anything wrong, but in the court of law, people's change of stories, denying I was there, but now it's, oh, I was there, but someone else shot, is in the law fair game for the prosecutor, and it makes the case harder.
And they have said that there were inconsistent statements made by Melly and his co-conspirator. Jules, let's touch on the change in the death penalty law in Florida that Governor DeSantis signed earlier this year. It doesn't have to be unanimous anymore if they get to that penalty phase where the jury will consider punishment. It doesn't have to be a 12-0 decision anymore. It could be 8-4. So say he is convicted. He's a 24-year-old guy, was a much younger guy when this happened. He could more easily get the death penalty. So your thoughts on that?
So I'm going to take it back a step, if I may. First of all, just making this a death penalty case makes it more easy for him to be found guilty, because people who are on a death penalty jury tend to be more conservative, because you have to at least somewhat believe in the death penalty. When they get to that second trial, because it's really two trials, trial one, did you do it? Trial two, what's your punishment? The jury does have to be unanimous about one thing: whether the government has proved what is called an aggravating circumstance. So it's not just, hey, you're guilty, but they've actually listed 4 possible aggravating circumstances. As long as the jury agrees as to one unanimously, then they do this vote. And you are right, it used to be unanimous. And that was really important, because the death penalty should only be given when the real community really agrees this is right. Florida's now said, we don't care if a third of you don't agree. If 2/3 of you do, that gives the judge permission. And given that you're starting with a group of people who are in favor of the death penalty, raising the number of dissents that can still be ignored makes it easier to get a death sentence.
And you just used to have had to be one juror. Say one juror disagreed, it was a life sentence. So I think that's pretty interesting, and I think you bring up a very valid point, because so our listeners and viewers are aware, when it is a death penalty case, it adds a layer to that jury selection process, where they have to make sure these jurors are so-called death qualified, meaning they say they are willing to follow the law and impose the death penalty if they feel it's necessary and it's been proven to be warranted. Mina, I know that you had some thoughts and feelings on that. We were talking last night about how, this is a younger guy, 24 years old. The facts of the case are that these people were all friends. I mean, they were all in his kind of crew, his group of friends who produce music together. So he's facing the death penalty at 24 years old, or at least the possibility of it, when he is alleged to have committed a crime 5 years ago.
This is disturbing to me, just because of the changes in what we're talking about. From my understanding, from the lowering of the threshold for the death penalty was as a result of the Parkland shooting that happened in Florida. And as we know, this is a premeditated murder by one man who went into a high school, and shot 17 people and murdered 17 people, students, staff, teacher. He said he was guilty. So I understand lowering the threshold for someone like that. right? Even though me personally, I don't agree with death penalty. I don't think death penalty has any place in a civilized society. I am a woman of a religious background, and I believe that the only person that should be, and I don't want to bring religion into this, but my personal beliefs are that there's one higher being that should be in charge of taking our lives. And I, just as a person, don't agree with this. But I do understand that there are heinous individuals on our earth that have done atrocious things. And I understand why the death penalty is put in place. I just think it's very dangerous when you lower it to such a low standard where you're not only, taking the life of people who may be heinous, but also people who may not be heinous.
What if he could make
Ynw Melly has been in jail for the last 1,438 days. For 4 years, the world has been wondering if the rapper is in fact guilty of premeditated murder, with the victims being his two best friends that he has known since elementary school. As of right now, the death penalty is a potential fate for him. But just before he got arrested, he released his collaboration with Kanye West that skyrocketed his fame. He had multiple songs generating millions of views and streams, and was on his way to being the next SoundCloud superstar. When the news broke that he was being investigated, people started to scrutinize him. His lyrics were shockingly descriptive. His interviews may have had clues that could tie him to this crime. His life in jail for the past 4 years has been rough, where he's being subject to inhumane treatment and borderline torture from the jail guards. As of today, Ynw Melly is not guilty, but since we have not heard his defense yet, it's hard to imagine his innocence. Jamel Demons, yes, that's his real name, was born to mother Jamie Demons King when she was just 14 years old. A teenager and her mother raised the boy at the Orangewood Park Apartments in Gifford, Florida. In kindergarten, Jamel met his first friend, Christopher Thomas, who we now know as Ynw Juvie.
So then when I walk in the kindergarten room, I see him, then he just started smiling and dancing. So it just made me happy. Now I want to be there.
Since his mother was so young, they moved around to various projects up and down eastern Florida. He still doesn't know who his father is. Jamie says her son was a great kid, quiet, smiley, loved to sing and dance. But Melly admits he had a dark side to him, one that he discovered when he was just 9 years old.
The demons was in him.
A whole bunch of toys and shit under it. And I seen a toy gun. I was just playing with that bitch.
Then Melly discovers his uncle's real gun.
When I rolled, I hit my head under the couch. When I hit my head under the couch, I stayed there for a little bit. I seen some shit shine. It was a 22 revolver, a real gun. I'm a kid though, so I just walk out the house and I shot that bitch. And I couldn't hear out my ear for like a week. Then I was like, damn, it's a real gun, you know what I'm saying? Up that bitch at me and bust his ass. That's his soul, man. Like, it's death in this motherfucker, you know what I'm saying? All I gotta do is up this motherfucker in your ass. Just disappear, bitch. Real shit, bro. I like how them bitches look. Real, I'm in love with them bitches.
Before Melly was 10 years old, he was infatuated with the power of having a weapon. In 7th grade, he brought a very large knife to school and threatened to unalive himself and another girl. It's pretty clear this young man was very deeply disturbed at a young age. Shifting his focus towards music was productive for him. In 8th grade, he recorded his first song.
Niggas be tripping, but never be body. You keep talking all this shit, and I'm happy rockin' Cardi. You a punk nigga.
In 2015, Ynw was formed. Jamel went by Melly, Christopher went by Juvie, Anthony Williams went by Sack Chaser. The rap crew started releasing music consistently on SoundCloud in mid-2015 and quickly gained support from their classmates.
Notice how them was the guys that was with him first. Like, his best friends, you see what I'm saying? He went and knocked off his best friends. The other dude that was involved wasn't even his best friend like that. So that's why I believe it was a ritual sacrifice, guys. I believe it was, because you have to do somebody that's close to you, somebody that you actually have some kind of real, like, established connection with. Like, that's what the way it carries that kind of weight, right?
But at the start of 10th grade, Melly caught his first case for firing a weapon at 3 upperclassmen in a school zone. Demons was charged with 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and 1 count of discharging a firearm in public.
What makes Arcade tight is they have all these sounds for space. You know, it's just a bunch of cool sounds.
This got him expelled from school and locked up for 1 year at age 16. It was during this time that Melly decided to take his music career very seriously, so he got to work. Clearly, Melly had a gift. He has a very unique, raspy, yet deep cadence, and naturally knows how to control his pitch. He spent his days behind bars writing love songs and murder ballads.
Girl, you know I love it when I'm next to you. Riding through the 772.
When he got released around October of 2016, he released his track 772 Love, which gained a lot of local support and some online buzz. He then previewed another track that he wrote behind bars that would end up changing his life.
Ain't getting roll no weed, ain't getting roll no sisters. I was locked up on Christmas, ain't get to see my niggas.
Melly knew this track, Murder on My Mind, was going to be a big one. He eventually recorded the song on a whole new beat with a faster tempo and released it in March of 2017. This is where Melly started taking his social media presence very seriously, focusing on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Since he was on parole from his previous bid, the judge actually used this song as a violation of his parole because of its detailed lyrics of Melly fantasizing about murdering people, and thus he got locked up again. Now, using song lyrics to incriminate someone is illegal in some states, and a lot of people like to make the argument that it's just art, which is definitely true, but Melly, even outside of his music, has made multiple questionable statements that are too dark to ignore. It was during this second confinement where he really started to generate a following. It's unclear how much time he spent locked up, but he was now 17 years old, and around October of 2017, his team was promoting a #FreeYNWMelly campaign. His family and friends even produced and filmed an entire music video for his song 772 Love, which now has over 40 million views on YouTube. Upon his release in March of 2018, he was starting to explode. He immediately dropped a music for Melly the Menace and did a number of live performances in Florida. His fame was leveling up. He released Blue Balenciagas, which would go on to do 70 million views, released a track called Butter Pecan, and he was traveling around the country and enjoying his freedom. All the while, Murder on My Mind was generating millions of views, and rap fans around the world were catching on to the YNW Melly wave. In fact, a lot of artists like Young Thug, Lil Durk, T Grizzly, and Uzi were big fans of Melly before most other normal fans caught on. He was a lot of artists' favorite artist. Right after his 18th birthday, he got arrested again for possession of marijuana, possession of weapon or ammunition by a convicted felon, and drug paraphernalia. Cortland Henry, aka YNW Bortland, Melly's longtime friend, was also arrested for possession of a weapon or ammunition by a convicted felon. They both posted bonds and were released the following day. With Murder on My Mind exploding, it was time for him to record a music video, and it's too graphic for me to even show. But he visually depicts the aftermath of a crime scene where he shot a friend and the friend slowly dies in his arms. These lyrics have been psychoanalyzed, and even though he wrote this song many years ago, the song may have shockingly foreshadowed real events. I didn't even mean to shoot him, he just caught me by surprise. I reloaded my pistol, cocked it back, and shot him twice. His body dropped down to the floor and he got teardrops in his eyes. He grabbed me by my hands and said he was afraid to die. I told him, "It's too late, my friend, it's time to say goodbye," and he died inside my arms. In his first interview with No Jumper, his whole demeanor was strange, but he revealed something very interesting.
So what you got tattooed on your face? Tell me about it a little bit.
What? On my face?
Yeah. You got the heart on this side. What's that say above your eyebrow on that side?
Which side?
Oh, either one. What's it?
No, I got a sat chase right here. That's my twin.
Okay. Juvie. Just a lot of your friends who passed?
Yeah. Nah, them my niggas right there.
Oh, okay. My bad. I wouldn't get none of my friends tattooed on my face until they died. I'm not a good friend like you were, apparently.
So Melly has his two best friends' name tattooed on his face. These types of tattoos are usually to commemorate lost ones, but in this case, they are alive and well for now. As Melly was finishing up his album We All Shine, one of Kanye West's writers, Sci-Hi the Prince, showed him Melly's music. Ye flew him out to LA to work on music, and when he got there, they had a pretty funny first meeting.
I was eating a pickle in this refrigerator. When I turned around, All I heard was, who pickled them in? Then I was like, oh shit, that's Kanye, what the fuck? And he was like, yeah, how long the pickles been in there? I was like, I don't know. I smacked that. And he came, and he was like, nah, I'm not gonna touch those.
So Melly, his manager 100K Track, and Kanye are in the studio for 2 hours listening to music until he asks Melly to play some of his songs. And this is what happened.
Then we play Mixed Personalities, and he goes crazy. He's like, bruh, this is me, this is Ye, this is Kanye, this is me. And he's like, I'm like, damn. And so me and Melly looking at each other like, damn, he probably did. He like, bruh, I want to jump on this.
This is me. This
Right.
is easy.
He said, I want to jump on this. But then I told him no. He was like, damn, why? I was like, because we about to drop it, we're in the process. He's like, bro, whatever I got to do, I'll get it done, like, to be on the record, like, because this is really me, like, I'm feeling a connection to it.
Kanye resonated with the Mixed Personalities track, most likely because of his struggles with bipolar disorder, which Melly also admits he has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. They came together, filmed a music video with Cole Bennett, and it would ultimately get released. This is only the second SoundCloud artist that Ye collaborated with, before Donda. The other one was Lil Pump. So Melly just secured a ticket to superstardom with that feature. But just when things were looking great, a very, very dark day was around the corner. On October 26, 2018, Ynw Borland, whose real name is Cortland Henry, shows up to Memorial Miramar Hospital with 2 dead bodies in his car. The victims were both on the right side, front and back seat. They were the bodies of Anthony Williams, aka Ynw Sack Chaser, and Christopher Thomas, aka Ynw Juvie.
And Matt here just got final payment of his biggest contract.
Man, that boy shot them boys. Then they dropped him off so he wouldn't be in the car, so they couldn't pin the stuff to him. Like, anybody can't tell what happened.
The vehicle had 8 shots on the right side and 1 through the back window. The police asked what happened, and Borland said they were victims of a drive-by shooting. He said he left the New Era recording studio in Fort Lauderdale, drove west on 595, then south on 75, and exited on Miramar Parkway heading west. He said on Southwest 160th, a vehicle passed by on his right side and started shooting. He ducked down to avoid being shot, and when he sat up, he saw his friends bleeding out, so he drove to the hospital, which was conveniently right around the corner. After this report, the detectives and officers shut down the crime scene and walked 12 blocks on foot. Not a single report of gunshots, nor evidence of a shooting was found. Borland was tested for gunshot residue on his hands, but came back negative. The roommate, Dontavius Withers, of Sack Chaser and Juvie, was questioned by the police since he lived at their last known address. He said there were 2 cars when they left the studio, a gray Jeep, which is where the murder took place in, and a red Mitsubishi, which Withers said that he and Melly were in. He said he went straight home and found out later that his roommates were dead and didn't know where Melly was. But it was later proven that Withers lied about the situation. Before police showed up, he was with Melly at Fredo Bang's house. Withers changed his story and said that Melly was in the Jeep when they left the studio, but then got into the Mitsubishi around Sheridan Ave when Withers Snapchatted him to pick him up. Police obtained security footage from the manager of the recording studio, which proved Melly left in the gray Jeep. He got into the back left seat. Remember, victims were in the front right and back right seats. Cell phone records show that Withers went straight home without stopping, so Melly never entered the Mitsubishi. When police investigated the Jeep, they found 1 .40 caliber shell casing on the floorboards where Melly was sitting. It was inside a white plastic bag. If this was a drive-by, there would not be shell casings inside of the car. This supports evidence that shots occurred from inside the car. Police were able to obtain T-Mobile cell phone records that track their locations minute by minute. These records show that Melly, Borland, Sack, and Juvie were all in the car together at the time of the murder. They did confirm that the Jeep exited on Miramar Parkway, but turned north on Southwest 184th and then west on Pines Boulevard at 353, and then turned back east at 406. This is enough time to make it all the way to the outskirts of the city where nothing is around and back. The cell phone records also show that they were driving around the area west of I-75 before arriving to the hospital at 4:35. Melly's cell phone was separated from the car at 4:32, just 3 minutes before the Jeep arrived to the hospital. This is where people are assuming that Melly and Borland were trying to get their story straight, driving around the city, and then ultimately Melly hopped out before Borland took them to the hospital. Melly then FaceTimed his girlfriend saying that they were a victim of a drive-by and he needed to be picked up, which confirms that he was at the scene of the crime. So police knew that there were a lot of conflicting statements from witnesses, and even some straight-up lies. They needed to conduct this investigation immediately. The next day when the news broke, Ynw Melly took to Instagram and Facebook to grieve publicly, claiming that they took my brothers from me over jealousy. Melly proceeded with his career as usual. He released a documentary on his YouTube channel on December 4th, which featured Sack Chaser and Juvie, and a little bit about how close they were growing up. It also featured a section about how obsessed with guns Melly was. At the end of the documentary, it stated that 4 days after the completion of this film, Ynw Melly and his friends were a target of a drive-by shooting. Then the Genius video dropped of Melly explaining the lyrics to his hit song Murder on My Mind, where he describes his love for guns and says he isn't a human murderer.
I murdered him, and I murdered a bee. I am not no human murderer.
But on January 3rd, 2019, he was arrested in Florida on weed charges. His sinister smiling mugshot went viral. Just 3 weeks later, while he was still locked up, Mixed Personalities dropped with a Lyrical Lemonade video. This was a huge moment for Melly and Cole Bennett, as Kanye was the first veteran superstar rapper he had worked with at that point. The song went mega viral, and Melly's fame exploded. This was the first time a lot of people have heard of him. He was about to become a mainstream artist, but on February 13th, just less than a month later, the investigation concluded, and a warrant for his arrest for the murder of his two friends was now official. He immediately turned himself in despite claiming his innocence. 2 weeks later, the evidence against Melly was released. Police discovered that Ynw Portland lied about where the crime actually took place. The police used a canine to investigate the crime scene on Southwest 160th Street, which is where he reported the drive-by happened, but the dog found nothing. Officers then investigated a more rural area that they thought maybe was the crime scene, and the canine found some evidence. The dog discovered 8 .40 caliber shell casings and 2 types of glass that matched the front passenger and rear passenger window of the Jeep. So now they know the crime scene is not even close to where it was reported. This prompted them to investigate the vehicle again, and they decided to do a trajectory analysis using rods and strings to determine flight paths of projectiles. And they confirmed that there is no way this could have been a drive-by shooting based on the bullet paths and the wounds suffered by the victims. The police suspect that they parked the vehicle and staged a drive-by shooting before showing up to the hospital. When autopsy reports came back regarding the victim's wounds, the evidence shows the initial lethal shot occurred from inside the vehicle and was initiated from the left rear passenger side, the same position occupied by Demons, which is Melly. An intermediate wound, by definition, would indicate a distance of 3 inches to 3 feet between the victim and the weapon. However, due to a 3-centimeter stippling pattern, the weapon was in a close proximity to Thomas's head. This would be a straight-up execution-style shot. The gunshot wounds to the back of Thomas also indicates these wounds were inflicted after he was shot in the head, as the projectiles entered Thomas's back when he was leaning to the left. Evidence from the autopsy revealed that both victims' wound paths to their heads were from a left to right direction. This direction contradicts the statements made by Henry and does not support the statements of a drive-by shooting that occurred on the right side of the vehicle. Basically, they think Melly shot both of his friends point blank. Then they drove around trying to come up with a story, then staged a drive-by to make it look more convincing.
Join large-scale battles with military vehicles. The online action game.
And look, real obvious what happened here, guys. I'm not gonna keep y'all too much longer. We're gonna finish out this video.
Garnered a lot of evidence to support that.
And then we're gonna call it a day.
Murder.
So I just wanted to do the court case.
Another personality, Melvin, who is reckless, unpredictable, and willing to kill. He hasn't exactly made himself seem like the most innocent man in the world. Most of his fans claim that this is just art. It's too common for rappers to make songs that glorify violence, gang activity, and all kinds of heinous crimes. This is all just for entertainment, and Melly is actually a good person. And when it comes to the music, it's hard to accuse someone of crimes based on that, but I think we can all agree some of his interviews and candid remarks about his alter ego Melvin make him look very suspicious. Plus, surely someone wouldn't kill their best friends, right? Well, there's absolutely nothing that indicates Melly had any beef or bad blood with Juvie, who he has known since kindergarten. However, with Sack Chaser, there is some suspicion. A video surfaced on the internet of Melly's mother saying this.
Don't ever try to come for me, because I don't even play them type of games. Like, what the fuck you got that I ain't, you threatened with your little gun? Bitch, I got big guns.
So she said Sack Chaser threatened her with a gun, and also said that she has bigger guns. She was also in one of Melly's videos holding a Draco. So we can indicate from these that she might be into a more dangerous lifestyle than most mothers, or maybe she was just being emotional on camera. Either way, she may have just gave the judge a reason to believe that there was a beef between Melly's mom and Sack Chaser, and that Melly would most likely defend his mother. Other than that, there isn't any strong intent for him to kill his friends, which is very important because they're trying to accuse him of premeditated murder. There are tons of rumors with very little or no evidence at all. Rumors that Sack Chaser was supposed to get $200,000 when Melly signed and he didn't want to pay him. Rumors that Sack Chaser got into a fight with Melly one time and knocked him out. Even rumors that Melly and Sack Chaser were in an intimate relationship and there was jealousy. There's an alleged video of Melly admitting to the murder, but it was just him singing Kevin Gates lyrics. There's a message he sent to a random Instagram account the night of the murder that says, "I did that," but with no context provided. But again, all rumors and very low evidence. It seems like the prosecutors have an extremely weak case. There is no confirmed murder weapon, and there is no intent. So to charge someone for first-degree premeditated murder and seeking the death penalty, they need a very strong case. Also, keep in mind, we have no idea what Melly's defense is going to be. 4 years later, and we still have only heard one side of the story. And since Melly has been locked up, his life has been rough. He pled not guilty in March of 2019. The next month, they announced that they were seeking the death penalty. He announced in June that he would be home soon and was seen in court smiling. Melly vs. Melvin was his third studio album released while he was locked up, which eventually goes gold, and it spent 31 weeks on the Billboard 200 albums chart. Then in March of 2020, he's seen smiling in court again. In April, he tested positive for COVID-19. He'll be filing a motion for restricted release in hopes of better care due to any jails not being prepared to treat this new virus. He hopes for your support and to recover soon. Pray for Melly. Send positive energy to him, please. Despite his health, he was allegedly involved in several fights with inmates, guards, alongside inmates, etc., causing him to lose his privileges and send him to solitary confinement for 70 days. Then Ynw Borland was granted house arrest, which is extremely uncommon for someone to get released facing the severity of these charges. His team released another project in 2021, Just a Matter of Slime, which had an insane list of features, trying to hold on to the audience that is still there to support him. His physical condition got worse when it was reported that he had an abscess in his lower jaw, which is a bad chronic infection because of his diamond implants. He was denied dentist visits, a regular toothbrush, or floss because they can be used as weapons. People suspected that the jail are trying to torture and break him down while he awaits this trial. In March of 2022, he filed for a speedy trial and was granted it. We thought we were going to get the answers, then it was pushed back a month, then another, and ultimately postponed indefinitely in May of 2022 after his own defense decided to rescind their speedy trial notion. There was another report that an inmate snitched on him and said he had shanks and pipe bombs in his cell and he was trying to escape, but when they investigated, there was nothing. However, they did find weapons in someone else's cell close to him, so they were trying to pin it on Melly. At the end of 2022, he had made multiple long posts on his Instagram begging for help, citing specific officers that are abusing their powers, mistreating him, revoking his phone access, only letting him out of his cell for 1 hour a day, watching his every move, threatening to beat him up, and making sure his family never hears from him, cutting off all his communication with others and straight up torturing him. These Instagram posts let us know the type of inhumane treatment that Ynw Melly is facing right now. Now, a reminder, he has not been found guilty of anything, so this treatment is definitely excessive. Going into 2023, we still do not have a trial date. 4 years, Melly has been behind bars, waiting to know his fate. The prosecutors have 600 pages of DNA, ballistic evidence, witnesses lying, Melly's own suspicious statements on social media, but they don't have a murder weapon. They don't have intent, and apparently they don't have anyone willing to testify against him. If Melly did this, it would be considered one of the most heinous crimes in rap history, but we don't know what his defense will be.
Yeah, certainly.
So as of right now, he is innocent.
Okay. All right, guys. Man. Anyway, we just wanted to take a look at that case. I thought it would be good that we look into it, man. We haven't really like delved into anybody that's been like, you know, kind of on that path that dealt with the sacrificing and stuff. We never really looked into the cases of any sacrifices or anything, or anybody that's been, you know, used by the devil, been manipulated, the music, So I felt it was good if we got in here and kind of delved into this case, man, saw what they was talking about, saw how things was unfolding. So we know ahead of time that this very well was a blood sacrifice. They said, oh, he ain't had no problems with Juvie, but he did maybe have a problem with Sack Chase, maybe. Okay, but at the end of the day, you don't supposed to necessarily have a problem with him. You're supposed to say, hey, who you willing to sacrifice for this fortune and fame? He blowing up overnight. And it was just like when Pac was in prison and he was like, oh, the Illuminati came for me. They was trying to get me to sell my soul while I was in prison. See what I'm saying? And when he came out, he had sold his soul. You see what I'm saying? And by that time, boom, his career just took off. Ynw Melly was taking off, and then all of a sudden, boom, he got his best friends. They just dead. They just get killed, right? So very well could be the case with him, man. If he get off, then we know for sure, yeah, it was blood sacrifice, right? And he gonna blow up behind that, and nothing to be done, right? Now, if he just took it upon himself to just go ahead and do that, just a heinous crime, just so he could try to benefit from not having to pay them out some little cash or whatever, then he very well may end up on death row. But he very well might get off, though. I think he will. Yes, certainly had, man. Like I said, I was doing music and stuff, man. I've been in the entertainment industry, man, in some different facets, man, trying to do different things. And I saw things that made me, pretty much go the other way. But I think it's more so like, man, your experiences, man, kind of mold you, shape you, and it's either gonna drag you in or it's gonna push you out. One or the other. For me, I knew better because I was raised in the word and everything, so I knew a lot. I saw a lot and I could relate to it right away. Like, yo, I know what this is about. I already know. My mom's taught me about this. I read the Bible. I've been in church. We had this information presented to us. We knew what to see. We knew what to look for when it came. So you couldn't put no wool on my eye. And like, I already know, shoot, that fame ain't worth it because I know that our souls are infinite. You know what I mean? Like, I know my soul is infinite. I'm not gonna let you have that. You can't have that. I know what it's worth. But for somebody that don't know what it's worth, take it. You mean you gonna give me $10 million? All I gotta do is give you my soul? Sure, I don't even see that. Sure, take it. Where my money? You see what I'm saying? Like, these folks don't understand the value of their soul, their spirit. They don't understand it. And they make sure that you don't understand. They make sure you don't know it. If you don't know the value of something, then you'll give it away for nothing. But if you understand the value, then you're gonna hold yourself at a more higher degree. You're gonna hold yourself to a higher standard. You're gonna expect more from yourself. You're gonna value yourself more if you know what yourself is worth. If you're just looking at this vessel, you think that's what you're worth, you don't understand the true value, because this vessel only give you what, 70, 80 years, but your spirit, your soul give you what? Infinite. You see what I'm saying? Infinite. But that's how the devil deceive you, make you think that, oh, it's about flesh, and you so focused on the flesh, he offer you the rewards of the flesh. You take that, you like, I can have all the rewards of the flesh if I just do this. Hell, I'm gonna be dead anyway. I might as well. Like, they don't get it, they don't understand. So, anywho, guys, man, we've been on this thing for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. I had no intention of doing this video. I just jumped on, said, man, let me get in here. We'll take a look at it, and bam. Well, we was watching the court case, and we was delving into this young man's troubled or checkered past and everything he got into. So, anywho, guys, hope everybody's good, man. Hope y'all got the new channel. If you didn't get the new channel, man, check in the description box, whatever platform you're on. I know we broadcasting on Rumble, broadcasting on Twitch. We on both the YouTube channels. Some people already said they did not get notifications, man. Turn your notification bells on. I'm new to the new channel because if you turn your notification bells on the old channel, they gonna turn it back off. You know what I'm telling you? That's what they doing to you. They turning the bell notifications off. They don't want you hearing or knowing about nothing. So we're going to another channel. We're making it clean as we can. Okay, we're still gonna do the long videos and stuff like that, man. We still got the different products that help you remove all the different parasites and stuff. Okay, and that's why I told y'all guys, if you've been following me, you know about all this stuff that they doing. I showed you the beams and everything. I showed you the control that they implemented, the different mechanisms and stuff. Showed you that they're using parasites to not only to control us, but to kill us, okay? So a lot of people, like I tell you, a lot of people that end up dying over the course of their lifetime, they end up with these different ailments and stuff, whether it be MS and Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's, kidney disease, cancer, blood pressure issues, tuberculosis, arthritis, all that stuff, guys, is being linked back to parasites. Okay, so I do have the products and stuff. I may not have it listed in the description box, or I might put it in there. But just in case you don't know, you can always go back to any other video that's posted, and I have it in the description box, everything that we provide, so that you can get yourself rid of all those different parasites, whether it be the AI parasites. You got I can't even say. I'm not gonna say because I don't want to compromise the channel. But anyway, we got the IV. Okay, you already know what that is, man. That's something that's supposed to deal with the intelligent parasite that came in the wall. Okay, we talked about that. We've talked about that. The IV, those are 30 for a week supply, 60 for a 2-week supply. It's recommended you take 2 weeks. We also got the DE parasite detox. DE parasite detox is 40. Okay, that is a 10-day supply that also kills the parasites inside. So we talking about parasites inside. We also talking about the spike protein that tends to grow in people. Okay, and also the shedding. So those particular products deal with that. Now the body shot detox, that specifically deals with the stuff that they spraying in the skies. Okay, if you don't know about that, you need to go watch my videos. Very, very, very important. Okay, I can't think it's called Candida or something. Most people have Candida in them, and it's basically a different mechanism that they've implemented that's supposed to kill you over time. 90% of people have this in them, and these things are basically, they come from them spraying the skies and stuff. So make sure you look into the product, man. That the Body Shot Detox, that's a 1-dose bath. Okay, that's 45. That will get those nanos and things and all that out your system. Also, the Genesis pineal gland decalcifier, that kills the fluoride, also decalcifies the pineal gland. You got to take that over the course of at least 2 months. Now, I know people that are taking a lot longer. As the information was delivered to me, that's something that you want to take on a regular basis to continue to kill the fluoride, but at least give yourself a good shot at getting your mental capabilities back together, as far as cognitive learning and stuff, processing information, also being able to be somewhat more, you'll be more spiritual, obviously, because you'll have access to your pineal gland. But the Genesis pineal gland decalcifier, that's 50 for a 30-day supply, 100 for the 60-day supply. But you can bundle that with the Body Shot Detox for 135, and then you also can bundle the DE parasite detox as well as the IV 2-week supply for 80, or you can do the whole bundle, the whole pack for 200. Okay, so anyway, y'all can check that out on any other video I got. You probably see that in the description box, man. If not, then hit me up on Telegram. Got the Telegram too, so make sure y'all hit me up on there. Y'all got any questions, anything, trying to get anything. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this video short because we weren't supposed to be doing this long live. Make sure y'all get the new channel. Go there because that's where you're gonna find me moving forward. All right, y'all. Catch you on the next video. Y'all be safe.